guys, Katy Huller here with Kids Can Read and Write. Today I want to help your kids know how to read big words with the QU and other tricks. So one thing, if you're trying to help your child learn to read, or even if you're trying to learn to read better, one of the main things that you have to be able to spot are the tricks. Now, Q and the U are one of those tricks. We don't just use a Q in words when we need that qu sound. Typically, we add the Queen's bodyguard, okay? The Queen's bodyguard is the U. You don't hear the U making a noise because bodyguards are just there to protect, right? They're not there to chat, make noise. So the Queen is busy speaking to the crowd, qua, qua, qua. The bodyguard doesn't say a thing. So when you're helping your kids read words with that Q, U in it, remember, tell them to make the qua sound. Now, how do you say qua? For some, that's hard. It's really like a K and a W put together. Ka-wa, ka-wa. Okay, so if you're having trouble saying qua, just think of a ka and a wa blended together. Qua. Okay, Q and the U say qua. Now, the trouble is we ask kids to sound out words when a lot of times they don't know the tricks. And because you might already know the word, you might not even know the tricks either. You might not even know how you read words. So it's really important to not only know this QU trick when you see Q and U together and to tell your kids, hey, that's qua. It's not qua and an or qua and a U. It's just qua. The bodyguard always sticks with the Queen, never works with another letter. So even though this is a vowel and this is a vowel, they will never work together. It's just going to be this qua here, and then this is what's making the E say its name. E and the A will usually say E when they're together. Now they can also say but typically that's that two vowels rule where the first one says its name and the second just listens politely. So that's the second trick you have to know in that word. And do you see a third trick? Well, there's another. It's the S and the H. Now, what makes tricks tricks? I call letter combinations that make new sounds according to like where they are in the word or who they're with, tricks. Because if you don't know those new sounds, when you're sounding out words, you're going to get tricked. So I'm always telling my kids, about these tricks and helping them learn them so that they don't get tricked when they're reading. So if you're reading this, you need to see this trick, and this trick. Otherwise, sounding out words won't work with this word, okay? You have to know those trick sounds. So when we read this, we're going to start here. And we're going to go and we glue the vowel onto the next letter. So we can break it there. But we're going to try to read all of this part together. Then we'll glue that next vowel onto the last part. So when you're helping your kids learn to read this, remember, first step, make sure they know those tricks. Second, let them know where they can stop for a second and catch their breath. Third, make sure they have a good blending technique. That's where you drag that vowel into that next sound. I can't tell you how many people come to me who don't have a good blending technique. They're just making sounds in isolation and not really squishing them together. So let's squish this together. We're going to go squa, squa, eem. See how I drag that into that? Squa, eem, squeam. Now we're going to drag this into this sound. Ish, ish. Squeam, squeam, ish. Squeamish. If you're squeamish, it's kind of like you don't like the sight of gross things. You get kind of icked out. You're a little squeamish about it. All right, let's try this one. So notice we have the QU right here. There's the queen. Here's her bodyguard. So you're going to say qua for the QU. Queen's talking. And then, do you see any other tricks? You might think, oh, I need to say here because of the IR. That is a trick normally. But because we have this ED ending, which can boss most R-controlled vowels, well, instead of saying here, it takes over, bosses that I, we're going to have IR. So it's going to say its name, and then you'll hear the okay? So when we read this, we have to know this trick. We have to know that the trick ending can reach and overthrow that R-controlled vowel, all except for OR. And then we have to know what ED says at the end of a word. What does ED say at the end of a word? Do you know? Duh. Some people say duh or tuh. It's really just duh when you're reading it. Now, when you say it quickly, it might sound like a tuh, so don't worry if that happens. But here we go. We've got to get all these tricks. So notice how hard this is for your kids who are learning to read. If they don't know these tricks, if they were taught sight words instead of how to sound out words, well, they might not know how to do this. They might need help learning the tricks. So that's what you'll have to do. Now, if you need help, look up our Black Belt reading program. It can help you. All right, but you need the advanced version. So make sure you get in touch with me if you're doing this type of word, so I get you hooked up with one of the more advanced versions of the Black Belt reading program. Those aren't officially on the market yet, but I can get you hooked up. All right, so here we go. We're going to start with that first part. Remember, drag your vowel into that next sound. We get in. Now we're ready for our second half. Qua, I, d. Inquired. Inquired. Do you know what inquired means? This is what you need to ask your kids. After they read a challenging word, ask them what it meant. Inquired. He inquired about the Black Belt reading program. Inquired, it's like to ask, to have an inquiry, to ask. All right, so next one, what tricks do you see in that word? Because remember, you need to be able to spot these tricks just like your kids. All right, if you say QU, you got the first one. There's our queen. And there's her bodyguard. Do you see any others? A and the L say all. They don't say all. That's why it's a trick. And there's one more. Can you find it? It's that Y ending. Now remember, if Y can't fit in the car in the first, like that second or third letter in the word, he goes, that many people are coming? Because he can't fit in the car. Okay, pretend this is a car. That's a really bad car. Okay, and if he can't fit in that middle seat or that last seat, he says, that many people are coming? No, thanks. Now, if he fit here, he would say I or in some of the bigger words. So, just another trick you have to know. Now, this is a trick ending, and normally trick endings would boss the vowel. But for some reason, Y does not always boss the I. In fact, a lot of times when you have that I-T-Y, it doesn't get bossed at all. It's going to say itty, okay? So where would we break this word? Do you know? Well, since this is our first real vowel and it's already hooked to there, we could break it there. So you just want your kids reading a part at a time to keep it easy for their brain to digest, especially if they have auditory processing issues. This is really important that you show them how to break it up. So all we're going to worry about first is just this, qua, all, qual. And A and the L is a trick. All the L's want to go with the A, but sometimes just one can. So that's qual. Then we do our it. And then do you remember what he says at the end? E. How many people are coming? So we get qual, it, e. Qual, it, e. Quality. You hear it? Quality. Like, I really want to get a good quality car to drive. Quality. Or what is your favorite quality about a person? I value determination, honesty, so many qualities. So, quality. So now, here's a really big one. Now, when your child sees a big word like this, if they don't have it memorized and they don't know how to tackle words, breaking them up into parts, this is probably going to cause some guessing, which is what a lot of kids do when they see really big words. They just guess at them. We don't want them guessing. In fact, remind your child to go from the beginning all the way to the end before saying the word. And you want to make sure they know how to break it. So remember, find that first vowel, glue it on, take a break. Find that next vowel, and then glue it on, take a break. Now, because there's only this QU between these two parts, you can choose which side to put it on. I'm going to go ahead and just break it here and let this start here because it's going to be a little bit easier. It wouldn't be wrong to have it over here. It's just going to make it easier. So you get to choose if these two parts are sharing. Okay, if there's just one consonant or one trick in between, you can do it on this side, you can do it on that side. Like, just choose which one is easier. All right, so let's see. How many tricks do you see in this giant word? That's what you need to figure out next. Now, we already talked about the QU, so I'll go ahead and underline it. There's our queen. Okay, and there's our bodyguard. There's another trick. Do you know what it is? It's the C touching an E, I, or a Y. In this case, an E. When C touches an E, I, or Y, he reaches his hands out and he goes, scares the E, I, and Y to say whatever it was saying in the word. And that is your C-E-C-I-C-Y trick. So you have to say S for the C and then do whatever the E was doing in the word. He shouts it out. Okay, so that's what you need to know for this. So even though this is a really long word, it only has two tricks in it. The QU and that soft C sound by the E. Let's see if we can read it. So we start here. This C is not touching an E, I, or Y. It's touching an O. So it's a regular K sound. So we're going to read that. K, on, con. And we're done with that part. Now we go to this part. S, se. Okay, so if we put this and this together, we get con, se. Now, let's worry about this half. Qua, en, quen, es, says, quences. All right, now, this is a lot for anyone. If your child has auditory processing, it may be hard to get all these parts together, especially if they have memory issues too, because you have to remember con, se, quen, and says. And you gotta stick them all together. So I like putting 1 and 2 together, con, se, and 3 and 4 together, quen, says. And then putting the two halves together, consequences, consequences, consequences. So there are consequences to your actions, right? Either good ones or bad ones. If you teach your child about these tricks and how to break up words, and how to blend them together, you should have good consequences. But if you just try to make your child memorize all the words and read faster than they're ready to, you're probably going to experience some hard or bad consequences because they need to understand how to read unless they have really amazing visual memories. And what happens to a lot of kids is if they don't have amazing visual memories, if they have processing issues, this is what we start calling dyslexia because they get caught up with the memory and the processing issues, and it delays their reading and their spelling. So you have to be careful. You have to make sure if your kid needs to be taught very explicitly and systematically, you need to help them understand how all these letters are working together to make words. It's really, really important. English is a hard language to read, and it gets easier when you know the tricks, but it's still hard because these tricks don't hold up 100% of the time. You can't be really rigid about them. They're going to help you read probably 80-85% of the words, but then there's always going to be a certain percentage that won't follow the rules because they came from different languages or, whatever reason, they just don't follow the rules. So keep in mind what I'm showing you is just for the bulk of the words, 80-85% of the words this will work for. And then you have to have a recognition of English or know those oddball words that just don't follow the rules. I wish they all did. I'm sorry they don't. It's very frustrating for a lot of people. But I hope this helps you guys. I hope starting to see these tricks in words helps you read better or helps you help your child to read better, or maybe both. But that's what you really need to be able to do. You need to be able to spot those tricks. You need to be able to break up words, make them easier to digest, and also be able to blend them together. So practice that. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much for joining me, and thanks so much for the nice comments you guys keep leaving. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, all that good stuff, and join me again next time. So good to see you. Thanks.